Ask Reddit by Crystal Babe. What's the one thing you'd wish your so would actually get about you? In a row shit. You're really serious about this kind of way. It physically pains me that we are always late for plans with my friends, but on time for yours. That's just rude. Enjoying time alone is normal and healthy. Having hobbies or interests separate from one another doesn't mean we're failing as a couple. Glad my fiance learned this. Like we met when we were 30. Not 16. We've lived a long time without each other. We do not need to do everything together. Now we just exist in the same room doing separate things most of the time. It took her a bit to realize and be okay with that fact. She thought if a couple didn't share the same hobbies they were doomed. Then she met my parents, who I'm not sure they actually share a hobby. They like going on trips together, but as far as hobbies go, they couldn't be more different. They've been together 40 years now. Please check in with me before telling your sister we will go to whatever thing niece is doing. I feel this. Except it's my BF deciding for us that we are going to visit his parents, which is a 4-hour drive away. I'd probably say yes anyways, but shit, at least give me an option. I need silence and alone time. I realize I need it more than most and will compromise. But please just let me sit in silence without music and conversation sometimes. No, I'm not mad. I'm not upset. You did nothing wrong. I still love you. I just get sensory overload really bad and need silence. Literally same, except my ex couldn't grasp it the slightest. She was a being of noise and anxiety, always blasting some live TikTok through the house. Mostly tuning into people into drama and accusatory rants and fights, or endlessly scrolling on TikTok with that thing spewing the dumbest things you've ever heard, all with her volume turned almost to maximum. Sometimes I wished I could twist my own head off. There is only so much room in our house, so if you want to keep bringing things into it, we're going to also have to throw things out of it. I think my wife has taken that statement as a challenge. She's become a hoarder, and we now have rooms that we lived in that are simply storage areas. Yet things keep coming in. She won't get therapy for it. It's oppressive to be around. I'm not leaving her, but I've considered it until the house is cleaned out. That sometimes I just don't want to talk. I just want to put headphones on and be left alone after work to decompress. This isn't every day, just occasionally. Thank goodness my wife can see that on my face when I finish work. Like you, not every day. But if there is nothing we need to go do, she can just look at me and know. She actually tells me, why don't you go do something to decompress? She's a keeper, and a gem. Nearly 30 years and my wife still doesn't seem to get my resting bitch face. Hon, seriously, I'm not pissed. I just look like this. Please stop continually accusing me of being annoyed at you. I'm not. Do you become annoyed though with the constant accusations? People who do this are stuck in this feedback loop, self-fulfilling prophecy, where they insist somebody is mad annoyed until they actually become mad annoyed. Then in their mind this reinforces that they were right, this other person is upset with them after all. I'm not faking being ill or in pain. His grandmother was diagnosed with Munchausen's syndrome. His mother was a victim of Munchausen's by proxy, confirmed by a doctor, and there's a general suspicion she herself has Munchausen's. His disbelief is generational trauma, and I can understand that, but sometimes I just want chicken noodle soup and I need him to know I'm not faking being ill to trick him into making it for me. My husband told me that it's statistically unlikely that I'd be as ill as I say I am. I fucking know. That's why it's called a rare illness. I do not have as much energy as you, and I never will. I enjoy dozing off on the couch on Sunday afternoons sometimes. That doesn't mean I don't love you and I am not depressed. Naps are normal, try it. Me wanting alone time has nothing to do with you. It's me just wanting to watch a movie you don't want to, do a hobby you don't enjoy, or just hang with my own friends. Ain't mad at you. Not trying to cheat. Ha. This is me. I'm an only child of two older parents who were both oldest children and introverted intellectuals. They each had their own studies where no one would tread unless someone needed to be summoned to the telephone or a meal. Saturdays my dad got the house to himself. Sundays were for my mom. My husband is the middle child of a big working class family that did everything together all the time. Everyone just hung out in the living room with the TV on all the time and left the house in a big pack. He is befuddled by my ways. It's not that I'm not listening when I ask you to repeat yourself. It's just that sometimes things sound like one big garbled mess. I explained it to an ex by loading the same YouTube video on my phone, her phone and my laptop, and hitting play on them all when it was a few seconds out of time across all devices. So yeah, I leave the subtitles on because sometimes I really need them, and sometimes I need people to repeat themselves. Brain injuries and fun. Also, for your information, I don't technically have a hearing problem, but sometimes when there's a lot of noises occurring at the same time, I'll hear them as one big jumble. Again, it's not that I can't hear, because that's false. I can. I just can't distinguish between everything I'm hearing. You should tell her that. Just how important distractions are to me to stop the complete flood of thoughts in my mind. Seriously. If she wants me not to listen to an audiobook while doing the dishes so she can talk to me, then she better damn well stay talking to me the whole time. My GF still tries to get me to eat things I'm allergic to because I did it once at a concert, drunk, to be in the moment, and now she thinks I should do it anytime it's more convenient. My cousin is real deal celiac, and I watched her husband one day say she was overreacting as she freaked out because somebody switched the bowls of regular and gluten-free spaghetti, and she ate a handful of the regular spaghetti. For the most part, I like my cousin's husband, and I think he's a really great grounding force in my extended family, which tends toward the insane. But dude, if you were on vacation and someone said, even though I've known better for decades, I basically just gave you food poisoning, you'd be upset too. It's hard to enjoy an afternoon water skiing with the fam, wondering when the inevitable case of sudden, violent diarrhea will hit you. I'm not mad or sad or anything, I really just don't feel like talking. I literally have to talk all day for my job, and it sometimes takes a lot out of me. I'm not a naturally talkative person. I just wanna get home and decompress by being silent. Going to therapy isn't just something for people who don't have real friends or rich people who don't have real problems. But it can be. I've tried therapy about 4 times and I've only had it be decent once. So many therapists are completely incompetent and give the industry a bad reputation. I totally understand why people write it off. That I hate living in a dirty house. I grew up in a very clean home. We cleaned up after ourselves, taking turns doing the dishes, chores, etc. My BF, on the other hand, is very disorganized and dirty. He has no problem with roaches all in his kitchen and is constantly collecting things he'll never use and leaving piles of it around the house. And if the house falls into disrepair, forget it. He won't replace or fix anything despite having the ability. The worst part is that he says he's used to it and says I'm odd for wanting everything nice and neat. I remember when I first moved in, I became depressed after realizing I couldn't clean the whole house on my own. Roaches are really bad. I can't imagine accepting that. As someone who also grew up in a very clean house, my mom was crazy intense about it when I was young. I've left an ex before for being gross and lazy around the house, but even they weren't that bad. You should consider if this is something you can deal with for the rest of your life if you stay with this person. It sounds like a pretty big incompatibility. That I find his mom, dad and stepdad all very fucking annoying and I'd like to be around them as little as possible. They are all 13 years old mentally in the bodies of boomers. Hugging is not an invitation for sex and it also doesn't mean you get to start fondling my breasts 99% of the time. A hug is just a hug. I know he's not a person that just needs a hug once in a while, but I am. Just not like that. I go out of my way to not put extra work on your plate. When you don't do the same for me, I feel unloved. I like the way you put this. I don't mind being around her family, but to a point I'm very introverted and they're the polar opposite. They are collectively very talented when it comes to draining my social battery. When I say I am tapped out and would like to leave, that doesn't mean let's go, but invite them round shortly to our private space while I'm trying to recharge for day 2, because she always insists on her family time taking up our entire weekend. There really is nothing wrong with dropping me back at our hotel house and her going on without me. I am a night owl, and when I was a kid I would cry every single morning before school at being awake early. Then as a teen adult I would cry every single morning before work. My body hates being awake early so much. I don't know if it's my ADHD or something, but it's like if I wake up in the morning I just can't do anything except have mental breakdown. So I work at night now. I sleep until around 12 or 1 PM. I don't cry when I wake up anymore. He thinks I'm just lazy. Delayed sleep phase disorder is correlated with ADHD haste disorder. Solidarity. I do want to improve a lot of things about myself, but I'm just holding on as it is. How long can this be a reason though? Like my fiance has been saying this for 4 years, and getting her to clean up her piles of useless shit is like pulling teeth. God forbid I try to pick it up because she wants to go through every useless paper that's been sitting there for 6 months. Then she gets overwhelmed and needs a break and then never starts again. I understand life is hard, I've got plenty of issues myself, but shit gets done. How can I help her break this cycle? Deleted. These are things parents correct their children for doing. Did she just never get that? Or doesn't care? This would drive me nuts. I need a quiet time, alone time. I need personal space to recharge. I'm introverted and socializing takes a lot out of me, and I just value my independent time. I really do require time alone fairly regularly. No, really. Only child and lone wolf. Slightly antisocial. She's so amazing that she's the only person I have ever considered spending a significant amount of time with. But it seems quite hard to understand for people that I really need to spend time in my own head, with my own thoughts. It's probably a me problem, and maybe a negative side effect of being a people pleaser, but I find if I spend too much time with other people I actually lose myself a little bit. I need those recharging moments to ground and center myself. No idea if that makes much sense.